Hi, so this is just a quick overview of what I've been working on in Laidout the last couple of months. Let's look particularly at the engraving tool. So for instance, here's a engraving fill that you can manipulate as if it were in a mesh, because it is in fact in a mesh. Let's see, you can have straight lines like this, or you can have circles, or you can have a radial arrangement like that. There are shortcuts to change the spacing and the rotation, which you can also do with the orientation mode, which has this little burin in it, so you can change the orientation like that, or change the spacing by dragging back and forth, dragging the knob, and then dragging the burin body itself for positioning. Same way for lines, you can change the orientation, spacing, and offset. The engraving tool has all kinds of little sub-modes. So we've seen orientation and mesh mode, where you can manipulate the the overall shape of things. But what else is there? There's the thickness mode. There's a bunch of these tools that have they're brush based, so everything operates inside of a circular brush. If you hold down Shift and press the button or left button and move back and forth, then it changes the size of it. So here's the the thickness brush in action. Holding down Control toggles between thickening and thinning. Let's see, what other stuff do we have? There's a blockout mode. Oops. Blockout mode. So this lets you remove parts that you don't want to see. And if you hold Control, just like for that other one, it does the opposite of what that did, so you can bring back everything. Next up is, Next up is the drag mode. Pretty self-explanatory. It's just kind of a distortion tool. This one has no sub-mode. It's always just dragging. Next one is pushing or pulling. So this one pushes in the direction away from the center of the brush. And holding down Control pulls toward the center of the brush. Next up is an avoid tool, which pushes away from the direction of motion. This one's kind of a sensitive tool. It makes things stretches out really, really quickly. I need to program in some sensitivity settings. Anyway, so let's see, what else is there? There's also a turbulence tool, which just introduces some noise into your lines. Often when things look like too perfect, it just is kind of boring. There's also a twirl one, so what does that do on some pristine lines? As you might expect, it just twirls things around. Let's see, what else? There's also so we saw orientation mode. There's a freehand mode where you can draw freehand lines. It's pressure sensitive from your tablet. Some of the interpolation I've got to work on. You'll notice kind of here it's jagged. When it's exported, that's interpolated, so it looks much more smooth, but this is just a preview at the moment. I haven't programmed an adequate viewer yet. So let's get rid of those. Oh, one thing about this freehand mode, it would be nice to draw a line like that and then be able to manipulate that as a line. It's much easier than going in the mesh mode, which has all these points, and it's pretty easy to get lost in it. To that end, I've been working on the path tool somewhat to make paths based on adjustable line widths. So here, for instance, is an on-screen method for adjusting width of the lines. If you hold down Shift and Control, you can add on different weight nodes to adjust the thickness of the line, as many as you want. So this controls not only the line thickness, but also offset. So if you hold down Shift, it's going to offset from your original path. So this red line is the original path. You hold down Shift, you can offset like that. The default is to adjust the width. You can also adjust the angle of your stroke. I still have to program adequate line joins. So far it's just the thickness and the placement of the thickness. So anyway, once I get those more or less functional, then I'm going to adapt meshes to be able to use those same width nodes instead of as a mesh. So it would be much easier to add on fields of lines like that. As a creation tool, you want to be able to do that. It would be much easier to build up mesh fields with that sort of thing quickly than tinkering around with little tiny mesh details like this. Anyway, so what else? With this mesh tool, there's also a tracing mode. So let's see, let's add in a tracing sample. Let's see, sample, where are my samples at? Sample outside, so let's do this thing. So I'm going to use that as a sample image. Now, if I see, I'm in tracing mode. So now with this mesh, there's two ways to trace. You can do once, and it'll trace from that. When you move it around, it doesn't update. If you press the circle, that's a continuous one. It always stays green. So it'll update as you move this thing around, or if you drag your tracing sample. Then let's see, let's rotate those. So it's still pretty primitive at the moment. It would be much better if this were combined with some sort of edge tracing. So right now, when it goes over an edge, it tapers down. If you were to put a line there, you'd see all these little peaks sticking out of it. So it needs to be able to butt up against those edges. But there are many things that could be improved in this tool. Hopefully I'll get to all kinds of improvements in the future. Oh, there's also this control box over here. You can change whether you see the trace image or not. It's still there if you don't see it, and you can still see it update like that. You can also change the curve, how the image values are mapped onto line thickness. Pretty easy to do. And in Laidout here, the lines are not anti-aliased when you view them on screen, but when you export them, everything's interpolated, so it comes out much more smooth. Anyway, that's what I've been working on. So I have many plans for this engraving tool, like point groups to overlap perpendicular lines or different angled lines to accentuate or darken, have different dash patterns for when the line is really light. That's really important for making engraved drawings. Many things to do. Hopefully I'll make some progress on it this summer. Anyway, if you like this, go to laidout.org to keep up with where I'm at with that.